How does a husband answer a wife who declares, "We're open now," in front of a crowd, and kisses a stranger to prove it? What happens when he does not shout, does not push, and uses only quiet steps that end with a packet in my hands under bright lights? Can a single kiss turn into a schedule that splits our days the moment the documents arrive? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Undine Spragg, and I like rooms that turn when I walk in. I am 33 and work the front desk at a co-working hub. I live on buzz, small pings, bright hearts on screens. My husband, Rowan, says he wants quiet and steady plans. I say quiet feels like a cage. I tell myself I am modern and brave. I believe I am right when people are watching. The trouble grew slowly. I started to talk about open, like it was a book we could read one day. I said it was only theory. Rowan asked for respect and clear rules. I said rules were old. My sister Saskia cheered me on. His mother Maeve asked for gentle weekends. I posted quotes about freedom and said, "Love can stretch." At the club, music hid my doubts. I told Rowan we were open now. I said a kiss was just data. Then I kissed a stranger because the crowd waited. Phones rose. Rowan did not shout. He stepped back and went still. I laughed to prove I was fine. Later, I felt the ground tilt. I wrote a clarifying caption and pressed post. I woke before the alarm and decided to make the morning bend to me. I boiled water, set 2 mugs on the counter, and placed them far apart like small flags. I told myself the space kept spills away. I also knew it looked like a quiet line down the middle of our life. Rowan came in with the soft steps he uses when Nia is asleep. He asked if we could keep tonight simple for bedtime. I said my day would run long, and the hub might need me late. He asked if that meant more club planning. I said networking made the rent, and that calm could happen later. I posted a photo of steam and wrote that big weeks need brave hearts. A slow pride warmed me. Rowan watched in silence. He asked if I could put the phone down during dinner. I said content was part of our income. He said income also came from respect at home. I said respect did not need rules. He asked if I still wanted a steady marriage. I said steady and open could live together if people were not afraid. His phone lit with a small banner. Harbour Deck, 9:20 a.m. He dismissed it like a blink. I asked if work had a new site visit. He said he had small tasks and would be out early. He moved the mail and flipped the stack so only blank envelopes showed. A sticky note on top read, "Bring forms," in his neat writing. I said he fell in love with paper. He said paper kept memory honest. I said memory should bend for love. He opened his laptop by the toaster. The desktop was clean in a way that made me itch. Home, auto, bank, all in a plain row. I laughed and said he ran our house like a museum. He said order shrinks storms. I said storms make stories, and stories feed us. He closed the lid with calm hands as I stepped closer. I called that motion secretive. He said the door to a calm talk was always open. I said calm talks were traps for people who feel. Nia padded in with her bear book and hair like a cloud. She asked for the part with the pond. Rowan asked if I could help for 5 minutes. I said work messages were hot, but I sat anyway and read fast, like a song with short beats. She laughed at her favorite line. It felt good, and then it felt like nothing, because my phone buzzed. My sister Saskia sent a picture of a dress and wrote that the room would turn. I answered that I would float the idea of open later, just as a thought. She sent a flame and said I should say it like a promise. I smiled at the word promise and did not think about its shape. Rowan asked if I would come straight home after the club on Saturday. I said clubs are community, and that community keeps me from shrinking. He asked if I wanted fences we both understood. I said fences were old rules for people who fear growth. He did not fight. He cleaned the counter like the counter had done something wrong. The kettle hissed. The house felt tidy and small, like a set built for a show I did not pick. He placed the day's plan on the island in 2 lines: school pickup blocks, dinner blocks. He asked me to mark where I would be. I sketched my initials in 2 squares and drew a heart next to one out of habit. He said thank you in the tone he uses for staff at the station. I felt petty and powerful at the same time. Before I left, he glanced at the wall planner. One Thursday wore a red circle. I asked what for. He said it helped him track errands. I said circles were for kindergarten plays. He said circles help tired minds remember. I laughed like I won. He tied Nia's shoes and asked me to be home for bath time. I said I would try. He said try and do are not the same. I said he sounded like a manual. He did not react. At the hub, I worked the front desk and fed my phone small clicks. Members checked in. One joked that my think pieces on love were coming soon. I said modern women think out loud. My manager, Omar, stopped and asked for a quick word later about tags. I said I could keep things tasteful. He said families use our space. I said families like bright people too. In the printer room, the machine spooled and then spat a blank page with the smell of toner. I told myself the building was dramatic. At lunch, I filmed a neutral lobby pan and wrote that consent and context make grown choices. Comments split fast. I muted the hard ones and liked the soft ones because curation is care. Saskia wrote that my reels looked clean and asked if Rowan understood the plan. I typed that he would catch up. I erased the line and sent a smile instead. After work, I stopped at the supermarket for berries I did not need, just to show normal life on my story. At checkout, Mrs. Elkins from up the street stared at my screen and then at my face. She said the block loved a calm evening. I said calm arrived when people learned not to judge. She looked at my hands and said, hands tell on people. I laughed and paid and left. Back home, the apartment looked staged again. The kids' shoes were lined by size. The trash bin was empty. On the desk, a thin binder labeled Utilities waited, thicker than bills. I opened it expecting meters and dates. I found tidy notes in Rowan's square hand. I said out loud that this was a bit much. He came in and said, order makes soft nights. I said soft nights are boring. He asked if boredom was the reason I wanted to talk about being open. I said, open was not a sin, it was a theory. He asked if I would test that theory on his back. I said no one owned my mouth. We cooked. I filmed the pan 1 second at a time and posted a caption about home warmth. Rowan asked if we could stop filming Nia while she ate. I said she looked cute. He said cute is not consent. I called him rigid. He said rules keep kids from carrying our storms. I said storms make them brave. He said storms make them wet and cold. I rolled my eyes. Later, I carried laundry toward the guest room and paused. The bedspread held a crease across the middle, and an extra pillow looked used. I said to myself that he probably slept here last week when I got home late and loud. I told myself space can cool small fires. I also told myself we were fine. Both lines stood side by side and did not touch. In the hallway, his phone lit with a missed call from private. The banner disappeared before I could read more. I asked if everything was okay. He said everything was moving. I said the sentence meant nothing. He said we could talk after bedtime if I wanted a simple plan. I said I wanted a brave plan. He said, brave can be quiet. I said, quiet felt like being punished. He went to the study nook and opened the desk. The air smelled faintly like printer toner. On the shelf under a taxes folder, I noticed a tiny USB taped to the underside, labeled with last month's date. I said he was turning into a filing cabinet. He said he was making sure he did not drop things. I said the house was not a case file. He said it was our life and he wanted it steady. When he sat, the laptop screen showed a clean file tree for 1 second and then minimized as I stepped closer. I said secrets break trust. He said we could have trust if we used careful words. I said, I am careful. He said, I am skillful, which is different. I felt that land like a coin. I said, openness is honest. It makes love bigger. He said, openness without consent is just breaking. I said he made everything sound small. He said small is how families stay safe. I washed my face and practiced a smile in the mirror that says, I am above regret. I told myself the club would be the right place to show we were modern. I planned lines. We are open now. A kiss is just data. The lines felt smart in my mouth. I carried them like small tools I could flash at the first sign of judgment. When I came back to the hall, Rowan stood by the desk with his shoulders down. The house was quiet in that way that knows it is being watched. I asked if he needed anything before I lay down. He said he needed early mornings to stay gentle for Nia. I said the world could watch us be brave and still be kind. He did not answer. He slid the utilities binder into the bottom drawer. The handle met the frame with a tiny, final sound. The desk drawer latch clicked. I reached the co-working hub early and told myself early light makes everything look kind. I straightened the flyer stack and lined pens by color. The lobby smelled like coffee and toner. Members drifted in with quiet shoes. I smiled and scanned badges. I liked the little flashes of green. I liked feeling in charge of the door. Omar passed the desk with his calm face. He asked if we could keep tags clean this week. I said my page was personal and careful. He said families use this space and watch our stories. I said bright people help a brand. He nodded without a smile and kept walking. I told myself some men do not understand energy. A woman stopped and said she liked my lobby videos. I said thank you and typed her guest pass. She asked if the club I posted was safe. I said safe and bright can live together. She said her teens watch everything. I said my page was PG and fine. She smiled in a sideways way and rolled her suitcase away. Behind me, the printer room started to hum. The sound grew and then coughed. I stepped in to check the tray. A single blank page slid out and curled like it had a secret. The smell of toner filled the doorway. On the counter sat a clipboard with one word at the top. Statement. I ran a finger along the clip and told myself this was about supplies, not me. A co-worker came by with headphones on and spoke into the mic in a low voice. I heard the word documentation, and then the door clicked behind her. I told myself every office had paperwork murmurs. It did not have to be my storm. Back at the desk, my phone jumped with a message from Saskia. She sent a photo of my dress on the bed and wrote that the room would turn tonight. I reacted with a flame. She asked if Rowan was on board now. I typed that he would learn. I deleted that and sent a heart instead. I told myself hearts are powerful because they say nothing and pretend to say everything. Members formed a small line. I checked them in and made cheerful sounds. One man joked that I was writing a think piece on love. I said modern women think out loud. He laughed too hard and walked away. I opened my camera and filmed a slow pan of the fern wall. I wrote that consent and context guide, grown choices. Likes appeared. A few comments pouted. I muted 2 accounts and smiled. Curation is care, I told myself. Near 10, Omar came back with a tablet. He asked if I could meet him in the small HR room after lunch. I said of course. He said there were member notes about tags on the hub's page. I said tags are public and people love to share joy. He said some members prefer calm. I said calm is not my only color. He nodded again, still calm, still not smiling. He said we would talk. I checked the shared family calendar. A new entry flashed and settled. Orchard Lot, 2:05 p.m. I blinked at the words. They looked like a place for a drop or a pickup. I decided it was some transit thing for his job. I told myself I did not care because I lived in daylight. I still cared a little. I put my phone face down and took a breath that did not reach my belly. The morning slid by in small tasks. I printed 2 guest cards. The printer hummed, spooled, and spit neat labels. Then it coughed again and sent another blank page into the tray. I pulled it out. smoothed it flat, and placed it under the clipboard. The word statement stared at me like a quiet eye. I walked away from it and smiled at a member, like nothing in the world was heavy. At noon, I ate a yogurt in the break nook and filmed a harmless loop of my spoon. I wrote that busy girls do simple lunches. Saskia sent a voice note about camera angles for the club. I did not listen, just sent a thumbs up. My mother, Maeve, sent a short text to the family thread. She wrote that Nia's bedtime should be gentle tonight and tomorrow. I replied with a yes. I did not promise anything else. When I came back to the front desk, a man in a blazer set his laptop down with more force than needed. He asked if there was a quiet zone. I pointed to the library room and offered earplugs. He squinted at the fern wall and asked if the hub had standards for staff pages. I said the hub felt like family, and we supported each other. He said families also set rules. I smiled and gave him a door code. He shook his head and left for the library. The afternoon brought a delivery. I signed for a box of paper and wheeled it to the copy room. The smell of toner was stronger now, a dry bite in the nose. I stacked reams and wiped a dust strip from the counter. The clipboard waited with its one word, statement. I wondered if it asked me to behave or if it asked the world to behave for me. I did not enjoy either option. 2 members chatted by the coffee urn. One said my latest reel was brave. The other said I should be careful because teenagers learn fast. I smiled and said, teenagers learn best from honest adults. They looked at each other and went quiet. I felt tall, and then I felt small. I returned to the desk and opened the hub email. Omar had sent a link to the social policy and asked me to review it. I told myself policies can bend for art. I also told myself I would read it later. My stomach buzzed with a small hunger, so I walked to the supermarket on the corner. I put berries and tea in a basket I did not need, only for a normal photo. At checkout, Mrs. Elkins from our street stood 2 lanes over, payment card in hand. She saw me and then saw my phone screen. Her mouth made a line. She asked how the block was at night. I said soft and fine. She said soft is for people who do not shout on corners. I said I never shout. She looked at my hands again and then at the berries. She said berries stain fast. I laughed and told the cashier I liked sweet things. Back at the hub, I found Omar waiting by the door to the little HR room. He said after I settled the desk, we could talk. I said I only needed a minute. I clicked through a few badges and arranged the key tray. A coworker slipped by with headphones and murmured into the mic, the word documentation passing my ear again. I told myself the word was about cleaning logs or inventory. I told myself I did not need to be the subject of every sound. I checked my phone. The family calendar still showed Orchard Lot 2:05 p.m., now crossed in grey. Rowan had done whatever he planned. He had not texted me about it. I felt a sting and called it salt. I posted a lobby photo to replace the feeling. I wrote that work families thrive on honest light. A few hearts came in. One comment asked if my husband liked my open theory. I typed that we were modern and then deleted it. I sent a sun emoji instead. Members slowed near closing. I wiped the counter until it shone. I pressed my fingertips into the smooth wood and tried to feel powerful. A woman left a note card at the bell. It said, "Please keep the lobby calm." The handwriting was round and careful. I slid it into the drawer and told myself calm is a button I can press. Omar stepped out again with his tablet and a gentle look that did not change his eyes. He asked if I was ready. I nodded and stood. The printer room made a low purr. The clipboard waited. The calendar ping from earlier seemed to echo back in my head. Orchard Lot, 2:05 p.m., as if it were a place with a door I could not see. He led me toward the little room. His tone stayed even. He said a few families had emailed. He said he wanted us to be clear for the week. I said clarity was my brand. He did not react to that either. He opened the door and motioned toward the chair. Manager asks for a quick word. I crossed the threshold and sat. My phone buzzed in my pocket like a small trapped bee. I did not look at it. I told myself I would win this room with calm posture. Then I heard the door click shut behind me. The rooftop bar glowed like a soft stage when I arrived. I told myself warm light made honest choices easy. Saskia waved from a high table and already had her phone up. She said the dress worked. I said the skyline worked harder. She spun once and told me to give the camera a slow turn. I gave it. I lifted a spritz and said this would be clean fun, just ideas. She said ideas sell better when the glass looks full. I took a longer sip than I planned and felt a friendly heat climb. I told myself bravery was just breath with glitter. Friends gathered in a loose circle, the kind that lets words stretch. I floated my line the way I practiced in my head. I said some couples read new books together, and maybe we could one day. They asked which book. I said the open book, like a modern trust exercise. I smiled to make it sound like a joke you keep in a pocket until needed. Someone laughed and said people say things they do not mean before midnight. I said I mean what I say when I say it. The phrase tasted strong. I swallowed the last of the spritz to keep it strong. Rowan reached the rooftop later with the steady steps of a person who knows how to stand inside crowds. He asked if I needed a jacket. I said the night was warm and the view was work. He asked if we could leave early. I said the second set would be the real show. He looked at the rail and then at me and said we should talk in private soon. I said we were already talking, and everyone here was kind. He said kindness is clearer without witnesses. I said witnesses make courage repeatable. The DJ upstairs said the club floor was open and people started down the stairs. Saskia said we should make an entrance. I said entrances are for cowards who need doors. I was already in. She laughed and looped her arm in mine. On the way down, she filmed our heels and the string lights. I said captions later, proof now. She nodded and told me to keep my chin high. Inside the club, the bass made the walls breathe. I felt taller just standing on the floor. Jax leaned on the bar with two friends and a camera strap. He looked like a post that loved being looked at. He asked if I wanted water. I said I wanted light. He rolled his wrist like he was testing the air. I told myself he understood my language. Small shows that move a room without leaving bruises. Rowan came beside me and asked if I was ready to head out after a quick dance. I said I needed the second set for energy. He said the energy at home mattered more. I said we had enough to share. The track shifted brighter. I saw a ring of phones open near the middle, not pointed yet, just waiting. I told myself a clean sentence could train a room the way a good sign trains traffic. I stepped into the open space and raised my glass. I said we were open now, and that a kiss could be data, not crime. The ring made a sound I have heard at fireworks when people want to cheer and also want to see if something burns. Rowan said we never agreed to that. I said we talked about ideas, and brave people test them. He said consent goes first, not last. I said the room understood consent. I turned to Jax because he was pretty and new. I said a friendly kiss would prove that adults can hold their balance. He lifted his eyebrows and said he liked quiet lives. I said 1 second, nothing heavy. He glanced at Rowan. Rowan said we should leave. I said he could go first if leaving made him feel strong. The ring tightened. I heard Saskia say the light was perfect. Jax leaned in because the room had already built a shape for us. I felt my mouth touch a mouth that was not my husband's, and told myself it was a number on a page, not a door off a cliff. It was light and it was nothing, and it was too loud inside my head. Jax pulled back and said he avoided drama. I said drama was people's fear of the new. He shrugged and slid along the bar, like he had been trained for exits. I told myself his retreat was shyness, not judgment. Rowan stood a few feet away, not moving, not folding, just present. I said to the ring that we were modern and kind. A woman asked if Rowan was fine. Rowan said the floor was sticky and we should go home. I said sticky floors make good stories later. Rowan walked to the smoking patio where the bass turned to a pulse through bricks. He put headphones on and looked toward the alley. I followed because I needed him close to the lesson. He spoke into the mic with the measured pauses he uses for work. I caught only the shape of sentences, not the words. When he ended the call, he opened his wallet and slid a small USB stick under the flap. A piece of tape held today's date in tidy numbers. I said he was turning into a filing cabinet. He said he did not want to drop anything important. I glanced at his lock screen as he checked a message. A thread called follow-up sat near the top for a breath and then vanished when he cleared it. The glass door reflected his phone, and I saw narrow tabs waiting like teeth, storage options, notary near me. My stomach pulled, and then I told it to relax. I said he was planning a station inspection or a school handoff, something boring and good. He said we should leave now. I said I needed one more moment to end the night clean. We went back in. The DJ called for a toast. Saskia waved me toward the open spot. I told myself I could tidy the earlier sentence with a better one. I lifted a new glass of water to look like wisdom. I said, openness is love with more air, and we were learning. The ring said nothing. I felt the crowd wait for a picture to tell them how to feel. I turned my face to show the right lines. A friend touched my elbow and asked if the kiss meant I would date other people. I said kisses can be friendly when rules are honest. She asked if Rowan had said yes. I said he understood my spirit. Rowan said spirit is not a contract. I said contracts are small cages. He shook his head once, a gesture that felt like a final, but did not raise his voice. Jax drifted near the edge again with his camera strap. He said he hoped I took care of my house. I said my house was strong. He said strong houses do not need public tests. I said public teaches private how to breathe. He tilted his head like he had heard a riddle and did not like the answer. He lifted his camera out of habit and then lowered it. Rowan stayed close enough to be in the frame if I wanted him there. I wanted him there because proximity trained strangers. I thought if he stood near me, the room would read that as consent. I told myself eyes can sign papers none of us had printed. I told myself later I would write a caption about brave learning and marriage 2.0. I told myself the internet would reward a clean pose. The DJ shouted that the next drop was for brave lovers. The ring cheered because the word brave is easy to carry when it belongs to no one. I held my chin in the strong way I practiced in the bathroom mirror. I moved a step closer to Rowan and a step toward the open space. He did not move. I tasted old metal in my mouth like a coin I had kept too long. Saskia mouthed that the light was now. The ring shifted to center me. I raised the glass again for a harmless clink. I thought I could fix everything with a sharper line, a calmer hand, a cleaner angle. I breathed once like an athlete and looked into a phone that waited for me to choose what the night meant. The phone blinked red in the corner with the word live. Someone near the rail whispered that they wanted to see if I would do it again. I said people mistake curiosity for courage. A man laughed and said both sell. The bass lifted, the tiny screens tilted up, and I felt my face harden into the person I promised to be. I made the shape of a smile that says, I am not afraid, even when I am. Then the light burst in a clean white blade and cut across the circle. The room went silent for a breath that felt like a drop. I did not blink. The crowd leaned in. Camera flash. Sunday lunch sat heavy on the long table like a project I could win if I spoke first. The family restaurant buzzed with plates and quiet songs. I arrived a few minutes late on purpose. I said timing was style. Rowan had already ordered for Nia. He said the kitchen moved fast here. I said fast was good for photos. Maeve stood to hug Nia and then sat with a straight back. She asked if we could keep the day gentle. I said gentleness comes easy when people do not judge. Saskia slid into the chair beside me with her phone almost hidden. She said last night looked brave. I said brave and clean. Rowan folded his napkin and watched the water glass, not me. The server set down bread. I lifted a slice and held it near the light to catch steam. Rowan asked if we could keep phones off the table. I said I was documenting family joy. Maeve said, family joy does not need an audience. I said an audience can be community if handled well. Saskia whispered that my lobby reel did numbers. I smiled into my water and felt taller. Gerald, Maeve's brother, joined late and asked if the rumor was true that I announced an open marriage. I said rumor is a weak word for a strong idea. He asked if Rowan agreed. I said we were exploring models that fit modern life. Rowan said consent needs words before crowds. I said crowds help people keep promises. Maeve placed a hand on Nia's shoulder and asked if we could talk about school instead. I said I was fine with any topic. I only wanted honesty. The word honesty felt like a shield I could lift without effort. The server took orders in a messy chorus. I asked for something bright and photogenic. Maeve ordered simple soup. She said simple sits well. I said simplicity can hide fear. She did not answer. Saskia showed me a DM from a club kid who called me iconic. I said iconic is a good start for a Monday. Rowan asked if we could skip labels and focus on respect. I said labels help people understand a new shape. Food came fast. I took a picture of the plates. Rowan asked again if I could put the phone away. I slid it face down, but close enough to feel it. The screen glowed anyway with blocked light. A group chat ping previewed and vanished. I told myself control is curation. I chewed slowly and smiled like I loved the taste of restraint. Maeve asked softly if last night's kiss was friendly or romantic. I said, kisses can be data when the rules are honest. She said, rules are made together. I said we were building together in public so people would trust us. She stirred her soup and said, private vows make a home. I said homes can stretch or they break. Rowan said, stretching without consent is just tearing. I said tearing is a hard word for learning. Nia swung her feet and asked when dessert came. I said after the candles. She asked if people would sing. I said of course. Her smile fixed the room for a second. It felt like cool air. I told myself I made that air by holding the table steady. When the cake arrived, we sang. I clapped a little too loud. I told Maeve her wish should be brave. She said wishes should be real. I said brave is real when you do it. She cut slices and passed plates. Rowan helped Nia with the first bite. He whispered something to her that made her laugh. I told myself he was playing saint to win the room. After lunch, we spilled onto the sidewalk. The river smell rode the wind. Mrs. Elkins from our block walked by with a tote. She looked from me to my phone to Rowan. She said the street hears things. I said streets love stories. She said streets remember too. I laughed and said memory is generous when the heart is. She moved on without smiling. Maeve asked if we were heading straight home. I said I wanted 5 minutes by the water to clear the feed. Rowan said we could use a quiet afternoon instead. I said, quiet is easy when you win the story. Saskia said she could film a soft statement for me if I wanted. Maeve said maybe the best statement is no statement. I said silence makes lies grow. Rowan said silence lets children rest. We walked to the playground because Nia pointed and asked with both hands. The swings were free. The light was kind and flat. I took a photo of sneakers on wood chips and captioned it with family balance. Maeve sat on the bench, hands folded. Rowan stood beside her and watched Nia climb the ladder. Saskia hovered near me and whispered lines we could use later. I nodded without hearing. A chime came from Rowan's phone and faded fast under his thumb. I saw a banner for half a second. Quarry room 11:15 a.m. He dismissed it like a blink. I told myself it was a transit thing or a school thing, something he always does. The time snagged in my chest like lint anyway. I shook it off and pushed Nia on the swing. She laughed, and the sound made the rest of the park look smaller. Maeve asked if we could agree not to post Nia's face for a while. I said my page was careful and PG. She said the internet does not love like a family loves. I said the internet pays attention, and attention feeds good work. Rowan asked if attention was worth more than peace. I said peace without light feels like a cave. He did not answer. He watched the slide and counted steps with his eyes. We walked the last blocks home with Nia, holding both our hands. The air had that clean, after-rain feeling even though it had not rained. Inside, the living room felt staged again. The mail stack on the table was flipped, faces down. I touched the top envelope and felt an indent where a finger had pressed. By the key bowl, I saw a small silver key with sharp edges. I asked if the landlord gave us a spare. Rowan said he picked up something for storage. I said storage sounded like the past. He said storage keeps the present clear. I called him a librarian and smiled without sweetness. A fabric tote leaned against the chair. A corner of a binder peeked out with a tab that read, Household. I tugged it an inch. The paper inside was stiff and neat. I said we were not a company. Rowan said families run better when days are clear. I said clarity is my thing, not his. He did not answer. He went to the kitchen and set 2 mugs on opposite counters like small flags again. The move felt like sentence marks. Saskia asked if she could help me record a calm message from the balcony. I said yes, later. Maeve said perhaps later could be next week. I said momentum matters. She looked at me with that nurse face that measures and warns without noise. I turned away and looked at the wall planner. A red circle sat on Thursday like a bruise. I touched it and asked if we were celebrating something. Rowan said it helped him track errands. I said circles are for school plays. He said circles help tired minds. I stepped onto the balcony for a breath and filmed a small loop of sky without posting it. Down in the driveway, a car was parked facing the street, not the house. I told myself it was nothing. The air smelled faintly like paper, like newly opened reams. When I came back inside, Rowan closed a drawer softly. The sound made my teeth press together. I smiled anyway. Maeve gathered her purse and said she would call later. She kissed Nia's head and touched Rowan's sleeve. She touched my elbow and said, "Gentleness keeps rooms whole." I said rooms need windows too. She nodded once. Saskia squeezed my shoulder and promised a perfect caption later. I said perfect captions build peace. Rowan stacked the flipped mail and moved it to the sideboard like it was heavier than it was. After they left, the apartment felt bigger and colder. Nia pulled out her bear book and asked for the pond part. I read, careful and slow, because Maeve's eyes still sat in the room like a quiet mirror. Rowan rinsed dishes and left them to dry. He wiped the counter and did not speak. I liked the silence because I could fill it with my narrative. I hated the silence because it meant he would not play my game. Nia closed the book and looked at me, the way kids look at math they already know. She asked if the man at the club was my friend. I said he was a nice person who liked dancing. She asked why I kissed him, if Daddy was right there. I said sometimes grown-ups kiss for friendly reasons when they learn new ideas. She frowned and said, friendly is when everyone smiles. I said Daddy was just tired. She looked at Rowan. He did not rush in. He stayed at the sink and dried his hands one finger at a time. She tried again with the clean honesty children keep like a spare coin. She asked if Daddy had said yes to the kiss before I did it. The words hit the room without music. My mouth opened and closed. I felt the world shrink to the size of our rug. Rowan turned off the water and faced the wall, not me. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked 2 slow beats. Nia waited with her head tilted like a bird. She asked why I told the club before I told Daddy. The question sat between us like a bright sign I could not dim. My phone in my pocket buzzed with a low, small vibration and then went quiet. A child asks a painful question. The parking garage was bright and cold like a clean cave. I walked beside Rowan and said we should clear the air. He said we could. I said people online were dramatic about one club moment. He said the house felt the echo anyway. I said echo fades when I post with care. He did not argue. He opened the trunk and lifted a tote. Inside sat 3 binders upright like tall bricks. Home, auto, bank. I laughed and said he was turning us into an office. He said order helps when days blur. I said days blur because people cling to dull routines. He said routines protect Nia. I said Nia is strong without charts. He moved a blanket, and a thinner folder showed, the checklist kind with a pen clipped to the spine. I tapped the binder labels and said, labels do not make love. He said labels make tasks clear so love can breathe. I called that a poster from a school wall. He said he works in places with posters. He closed the trunk softly. The close sounded calm, not angry. It made me feel small, and then it made me feel stubborn. On the drive home, I opened my phone and saw Saskia's messages stacking. She said my reels kept getting mixed comments. I replied that engagement was good. She sent a flat face and said some people had saved the clip of the kiss. I wrote that honesty cannot be stolen. She did not answer. Rowan asked if I was okay. I said I was leading a conversation. He said good leaders keep people safe. I said safety has many forms. He kept his eyes on the road. At home, I went straight to the balcony because the night air felt like a stage. I framed the skyline and recorded a neat reel. I said, public truth is not betrayal when it lives in agreed space. I said, learning can be messy and still be love. I posted it with soft music and waited. A small banner slid across the top of my screen. File uploaded successfully. It was not my app. I turned and saw Rowan at the dining table with his laptop open. A neat window with folders stood on the screen. When my shadow touched the floor, he minimized the window in one smooth motion. I asked what he was doing. He said he was organizing home things. I said he could organize with me, not around me. He said I had chosen an audience first. I said the audience helped us grow. He said we were not a campaign. I said we were a modern family. He looked at the wall planner and circled a date for next week with a red pen. The cap clicked shut. The sound landed like a period inside my chest. I said circles were for school plays. He said circles help tired minds remember. He set 2 mugs on opposite counters like 2 small flags. He asked if we could review pickup times. I said the grid felt like punishment. He said the grid gives Nia certainty. I said certainty is boring. He said boring keeps children steady. I opened the fridge for a pause and closed it without taking anything. I told myself control is posture. He checked his phone and dismissed a reminder with one flick. I caught the words for half a breath. North Lot, 4:55 p.m. My throat tightened and then I told it to release. I said he had turned himself into a calendar with shoes. He said plans keep chaos small. I said chaos is just energy that scares people. He wrote 2 blocks on the family calendar and slid it to me. I signed my initials where he pointed. The pen felt heavier than a pen. I went to change my top for a kinder live. When I came back, he wore headphones and spoke in a low voice with pauses like stepping stones. I could not hear the words. When he ended the call, he opened the laptop. A spreadsheet glowed with tidy cells. I leaned near and saw only initials and dates, no letterheads, no names. He minimized it mid-edit before my mouth formed a question. The desktop behind it showed 2 clean folders, Archive A and Archive B. I said he was building a cold museum. He said memory is kinder when facts are in order. I said facts can be shaped by tone. He said tone is not a fact. I posted another story from the balcony with a softer voice. I said, families can hold more than one truth. Comments split again. A donor from the hub liked it. A stranger called me cruel. I muted 3 accounts and liked 10. Curation is care, I told myself. The ground swayed under my careful balance, so I ate a cracker and named the feeling hunger. We drove to the pharmacy because we needed toothpaste. The queue inside was slow and bright. I watched greeting cards and pretended to read. Through the window, I saw Rowan on the bench outside wearing headphones. He spoke into the mic with those measured pauses. When I stepped out, he ended the call and opened the laptop on his knees. A document flickered. He minimized it the second I approached. The clean file tree waited again. Archive A, Archive B. My stomach tightened. I said I hated secrets. He said the folders were not secrets. They were shelves. I bought gum to justify the stop. In the lot, Mrs. Elkins walked by and nodded at Rowan. She nodded at me second. I said the block loved busy people. She said the block slept better when nights were calm. I laughed and said, calm comes after the story lands. She did not laugh. She kept walking. Back home, Rowan set 2 calendars on the island, one for school, one for meals. He asked me to confirm 2 evenings and 1 morning. I sighed and placed my initials. He thanked me. He drew tiny check marks like a man who likes check marks. I said this felt like a performance review. He said it felt like keeping promises in view. I said my promises are not paper. He said paper helps people who break promises remember. Saskia texted again asking if I was okay. I typed that I was winning the narrative. She wrote that the hub had received 2 emails about my club line. I replied that people call when they care. She sent a pause sign and went quiet. Maeve sent only logistics for Nia's pickup and a small heart. I copied one of her phrases about gentleness into a draft and sharpened it. I messaged Jax with a simple check-in. He did not reply. I told myself he was busy, not guilty. Rowan rinsed Nia's cup and set it to dry. He wiped the counter and folded the towel flat. He asked if I would be on time tomorrow. I said I would be on time and bright. He said on time was enough. I said bright helps. He said steady helps more. I said I was steady and bright. He did not argue. The quiet pressed on my skin like cool glass. I moved close and asked if he planned to forgive me in public. He said forgiveness was not a show. I said he was punishing me with space. He said space is a seatbelt until people stop speeding. I said I was not speeding. I was driving the story. He said stories should not run over families. I said families should not block roads. He looked tired, like a man who had counted every window in a building. He stepped back from the island and rested his hands on the chair. His voice carried without being loud. He said we would keep to the schedule, keep words simple around Nia, and respect distance until tempers cooled. I asked what he would do if I kept posting. He said he could not control my posts. He said he would act on what he could control. I asked what that meant, exactly. He met my eyes and did not blink. He said he would handle it properly. The bus terminal was bright and loud. I lifted my phone for a calm check-in. A man in a blazer asked my name, checked, and handed a packet. He said service was complete and read a summary about temporary orders and a custody schedule. Rowan stood several steps away and thanked security for keeping space. I said this was theatre. A guard asked us to clear the aisle. Rowan nodded and stepped back to the wall. My screen went dark. Saskia texted, "Are you okay?" I could not type. The arrival chime pinged. Doors opened and closed. I gripped the papers. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.